over to you, Finn, for your case study.
So I came to this program with very limited experience, and I had the simple goal of wanting to expand my knowledge and my skills to position myself as a more valuable product manager. It's great if it could let me change slides. There you go. So the problem statement, this came out of my own personal experience as a young professional moving to a big city and not feeling like I could access the unique experience that I wanted to. Although I had it all on my doorstep, I was frustrated by the fact that I didn't seem to be doing the things that I saw everyone else doing. I'd wander around London semi-aimlessly with other graduates, and I couldn't help but feel slightly underwhelmed. So this made me want to build something that when you move down to a big city, you have an idealized vision in your head of what life's going to be like. And I wanted to build something that would help my users' reality be as closely aligned to that vision as possible. So the main motivation for using something that I felt so passionate about was that I knew I was doing this alongside work. So I needed it to be a labor of love to keep me engaged, and I needed something that I could really get behind. So now we've got the problem. We needed to validate its fit with the market. So I wanted to help immediately, but that would be foolish. I couldn't just build something for myself, assuming everyone else's experiences were just the same as mine. So to negate this, I performed several interviews with the chosen demographic, asking individuals about their own unique experiences with trying to book exciting stuff to do in London. So through listening to these experiences, I could alter and adapt my problem statement until it encapsulated a really acute and real problem faced by young professionals. So through word of mouth and utilizing my network of young professionals, I secured 5 interviews, all of which were 23, had just moved down to London to start a new job within the last 3 months. So were extremely good fits for my target market. The customer interviews were very insightful. The most impactful finding for me was that every person I interviewed was struggling with this problem, and almost all of them had tried to find their own personal solutions. Many kept lists, often with friends or a partner, but most of them said that when it came to booking an actual experience, the list was the furthest thing from their minds. They never remembered to check it. And also, adding stuff to that list often came through word of mouth, which is slow and unreliable. And by the time you've heard about something, often it's fully booked and you can't do it. So this drove home to me the importance of creating something that would be at the forefront of people's minds when it came to booking an experience. I wanted it to become synonymous with the process. And the second key finding was that individuals wanted unique experiences. Many of their motivations for moving down to London rather than another city was to access these really cool things that you could only do in London. So now we had our problem. We needed to validate the offer market fit with an MBO. So an MBO is a simple sentence that epitomizes what the product endeavors to deliver. So to create the MBO, the key frustrations from the interviews were flipped on their head to create opportunities that we could seek to fulfill. And by doing this, we knew that the opportunities that Let's Do London, which is the product's name, was aiming towards have came directly from the frustrations felt by our target market. So as you can see through the validation process, we managed to condense the MBO quite significantly. And the next 2 slides will explain what went into this process and how we achieved offer market fit. And achieving this fit means that what you intend for the product to do is congruent with the problem that you set out to address. So the first stage of validation was to gauge people's reaction to the MBO. So to do that, I created this website which clearly displayed the MBO with an option to sign up for a beta test. The key performance indicator for this being the ratio between the sign-ups to the site visits with a target of above 5% conversion. So with each iteration, the resultant effect upon the sign-up rate was observed, helping us condense down to a particular MBO that resonated with the site visitors. So we got a sign-up rate of 25%, which inferred that the offer successfully conveyed a solution to the problem. And encouragingly, 2% of the site visits came from Snapchat, which was a medium I didn't promote on, which implies that people felt compelled to share this solution with their friends. So upon signing up to the beta program, the signups were invited to complete an onboarding survey, which we did to go deeper into the issues faced by our niche. So 44% of the signees went on to complete the survey, With this information, we had an increasingly clear picture of the issues LDL had to overcome, as well as the current ways people were trying to overcome this themselves and the frustrations in doing so. So as I said, 100% of the respondents said they were struggling to find unique experiences in London. And the survey responses informed me what attributes the product would need to have to address the problem, turning the production question from what to how. So these attributes were then plotted in a blue ocean strategy. So the blue line, that's Let's Do London. And you may look at this and think that there's no clear advantages with using Let's Do London. But if you look closely, the competitors are normally good in one or two areas and then really poor in the others. So this implied that if Let's Do London could be consistently good across all factors, we would clearly differentiate ourselves as the obvious choice for facing this problem. So in the product storyboard on the right, this was really, oops. Oh no. Yeah, this was really effective in seeing the path that took the participants to needing the solution in the first place. So we were able to see the issues that they were facing, the problems would help them avoid, and the advantages would help them gain. And by looking at this, it really felt as if I was relating to the target market, and it made me ever more confident I could produce a solution that they would like. So objective 3, instilled with confidence that I was on the right track to developing a valuable product, and a positive reception meant that I could progress onto a strategic roadmap, which was the first indication of how the solution might manifest itself. So it was easy to get carried away ideating on a strategic roadmap, but bearing in mind one of the key principles of product management, which is data over opinion, we had to ensure that the case for every feature on the map could be justified. So to build the case, we used two tools, the lean canvas to validate the feasibility of each feature, and a customer journey map to validate that each feature actually held value to the customer. So finally, when I was confident in the journey map, I could begin starting low and medium fidelity wireframes. So the session for creating a strategic roadmap was by far my favorite. I was working with Dora, and I really enjoyed the cooperation and a genuine feeling of wanting to help one another. So after wireframing and creating the prototypes, I was always able to come back to this roadmap, tick things off, add more things, track my progress. There was always something to do when I looked at this. So I could have gone on adding features to this for days, which is why tools such as the lean canvas is really good, because it helps bring you back down to earth and see what is actually feasible given the wants, needs and constraints of the market. It was also really fun using this canvas to see how we might market the solution to the early adopters. So I became particularly fond of guerrilla marketing, as I thought this was a really personal way to present something, especially when you're going after a single city. You want to relate to the people living there as much as possible. And it's a very undiluted way of marketing, which I think is quite refreshing at the moment. So looking at the wireframes briefly in the bottom right, it can appear quite analog. So a brilliant antidote to this is the customer journey map. This helps you see the more intimate side of the app and how it will actually play a role in somebody's life. So I use the example of a young professional who was seeking the confidence to be able to book something for themselves and their peers at work. So LDL came in and instilled that confidence by providing her with the insider knowledge of where was good to go and where she could be sure her and her friends would have a good time. So knowing how someone will interface with an app and why they need the app helps you get your priorities right, and this will help inform the wireframes. So for example, this person would have needed to see a map view to see where it was in close proximity to her work, and she'd also need to see a good rating system so she could be confident in what she was booking. And then moving on to the wireframes in the bottom right, wireframes was something that was completely new to me. They're a source of a lot of frustration on Figma, not quite as much as the prototyping. But although at first I was trying to make it look really good and really professional, I quickly learned that as soon as you plonk it in front of someone else, they're going to have 1,000,001 suggestions in what you should do differently, and they're almost always right. So a key learning from that was functionality over aesthetics when it comes to testing. So objective 4, this was the call to action for the users. This stage of product development is called the product market fit engine, in where we, the product people, work synergistically with high expectation customers collaborating to make a solution that fits with the problem as well as possible. So 5 testers were selected from those of which had signed up, and they were asked to complete a task on the LDL prototype with no guidance unless intervention became necessary. So after testing, the product market fit score was derived from the percentage of people who would be extremely disappointed if the product wasn't developed to completion or was made no longer available to them. The goal was to get a product market fit score of above 1%. And high expectation customers, these are customers who are inclined to act like missionaries for your product. They relate to the core values so highly that they want others around them to benefit from the product as well. And they're important for bringing a new solution to a rapidly growing product, as you need a core foundation of advocates. So here we have screenshots of the high fidelity prototypes. And as you can see, there's been a rather drastic change between the two. So the tests helped me develop it from a rather amateurish looking solution in the top right to a more mature looking app in the bottom left. And the tests were really eye-opening in how blindingly obvious some of my mistakes were. Kind of made me realize that I look at my work with some rose tinted glasses on. But another key lesson from this as well was that I know my limitations. I'm not great at design. I don't own the skills in Figma to make something look amazing, but there are people out there who do, and there's no shame in using someone's template. And I do luckily have the skills to adapt it and change the colors from green to blue and pink and make it look how I want it to look. So that was good. That's good not to take too much pride and to use other people's work because it can be to your benefit. So the results were very successful. A product market fit score of 80% shows that we've been successful in creating a product with real demand in the target market. Users' opinions on who the app would be most suited for and the main benefits it had was very closely aligned to the original product vision, which meant in the interim steps, we'd managed to preserve the essence of the product vision and bring it into a semi-reality. So with 80%, this is very strong, and I attribute this mostly to the acuteness of the problem of the specified niche and the absence of any current solutions. I also attribute it to the continued development and improvement of the prototype after each test, seeing where users struggled while navigating the app and their feedback in the post-test surveys. So given this feedback, the next step would be to make a fully functional or a functional no-code prototype. And given the success of this is something I'm strongly going to consider in the future. So having gone through the process provided by the Prod MBA, we've arrived at the final strategic roadmap. And by virtue of the process, I can be confident that all the core values, all the KPIs, and all the objectives in this roadmap have stemmed solely from the problems faced by our users. So the Prod MBA illuminates the way forward if you as a product manager can listen attentively to what the market is saying. So to summarize, I hope in this presentation, I've shown how the process behind LDL has been strictly problem focused and user centric. At the crux of this exercise has been the principles of taking the time to understand the problem, understand the people, put data before opinion and value over features, and my ego to one side. So through this process, I've acquired a real appreciation for why manager is in the title. You're really managing a process and you're letting the process do the work, uncover the meanings, uncover the motivations, the wants, the needs. And as a manager, my responsibility is to interpret these findings and put them into the next stage of the process, repeatedly until a rock solid core value is derived.
Awesome. Excellent. Really strong. Very, very good. Yeah, don't need to worry about not sharing that. That's very good. Good. Let's go through just quick fire points. Do you want to go back to the first slide? And just as I make these points, just sort of skip through and then we'll talk about sort of higher level learnings. So on the intro, just the next slide. Sorry, even on the first slide, I thought it was great that you sort of highlighted the outcome that you were looking for and how you sort of, things you're looking for coming into the program, which I think is great. If you go to the next slide, I thought the problem was very good. This is an excellent story. You did everything I would want somebody to do. You sort of added a bit of element of fun, which is memorable, personal experience, which is again memorable. You have very good context, intrinsic, extrinsic motivations, and then the statement very clear as well. So it's great, right? Creating these really concrete images and ideas. People are not going to remember much from your presentation. So the more that you create these hooks, the more powerful anything you say is going to be, actually, beyond just a presentation. And there's a great book. I'm just trying to remember the name now. Should be more memorable. I will send it to you after. I need to track it down on this. I think this is something you could actually build upon further. What is it called? I'll track it down. Sorry. Anyway, point is that this is a really important skill. You've got it. You can become even more effective by really understanding the mechanics of what is memorable.
Yeah.
How do we make things memorable? Good. Next slide. So on the first group of objectives, great, what we call bridging. So it's very clear, like, okay, what the objective was. And then you said things like, here's the objective. So I then did some user interviews. So it's very clear. Here's the objective and here are the key results and here's why, because they contribute to that objective. And the way you talked through the interviews was excellent. The learnings as well, quote, they all had this problem. They were all hacking together a solution, but here were some problems. It was slow, it was unreliable. You told a really good narrative about rather than going like, here's what we did with the interviews. Here's where the learnings are. You gave some nice examples and color to the story. You skip to objective 2. Yeah. Excellent description of the MVO. Very, talking about a very clear process. The only criticism here is the slide, the visual hierarchy. I'm not sure what I should be focusing on. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of going first iteration to last, because you're showing the value of product discovery and the sort of the evolution. But strip it away. I would just have the first iteration and last iteration, for example. Yeah, because I'm like, do I focus top right? Do I go left? I'm not sure.
So at least I'm consistent in lack of design.
Yeah. Follow templates again. You don't need to be good at design, but follow templates. Small thing though. I thought the explanation was very strong. Just go to the next slide. Good, great results. Be a bit careful about how you phrase data though. 25% sign up conversion, great, but it's not 44%. Be very clear, it's 44% of them. Mm-hmm. So 10% of the total, actually.
Yep.
So don't manipulate data because it will undermine your arguments at times, if anyone picks up on it. And again, here, just talk to qualified data always. So, because people are going to go, well, like, is that good? Is that bad? So even 10% of people can, or let's say 44% of those who sign up completing a survey, you can go, that's a great sign, right? They actually bothered to fill in these questions. That shows that there's some strong motivation there. So tell a bit of a story about the data. Great learning about Snapchat was actually a perfect example of where you did that very well. You said, look, Snapchat, we've got 2%. Here's why that's interesting to talk about. Excellent. Good. If you go to the blue ocean, the narrative was good about why you came to this, but it wasn't actually clear. You didn't clearly say, okay, what is this? This is to help us understand how we might differentiate. You did sort of talk through it, but you didn't signal to me what's coming up. And I felt someone might have missed what we were meant to be doing with the blue ocean, what the value of it was, which is a shame because you did talk through it really well. You said, look, yes, there's, it's busy, but most people are only good at one or two things. We can be very good at most things. Strategic point though, it's hard to be good at everything. So, if I were presenting this to stakeholders, I would break it down and say, look, you could have two. You could say, look, our long term, we want to actually be pretty good at all of these things. To start, they were just going to focus on point 1 and 2, for example. because anyone experience is going to go, right, I don't think that's going to work in the real world, or Finn's being idealistic.
Never heard that before.
So be very, very focused. Apart from that, though, good. You talked. Sorry, the next slide. Sorry, move to the strategic roadmap and lean canvas. I thought those are very good explanations. Nice to have those key learnings, and you talked through just a few key points of the lean canvas, which is great. I thought that was very strong. If you go to the Figma designs, that is a massive improvement. Sorry,
these ones.
Yeah. Massive improvement. And again, it shows you don't even need to do the work for it. Be smart. As you said, use templates or use a good designer, right, in your team as well. And it was great to see you realize that the learning is not about, the design in this case. It's actually the concept behind it, right? Because a map is a map. We don't want to mess with that. A listing is going to look like a listing, whether it's Airbnb or Google. But the value behind it is different, and that's what you're trying to get to. So you didn't need to waste time in this, even doing custom designs. Onto the product market fit score. Good. I thought it was good indication from the feedback. And I love that point about coming back to the USP and how you stayed focused on it, and how you think that contributed to the high score. Great. You're showing that continuity, that narrative from where we start with the problem. And good, obviously only 5 people, but it's a good indication that you're doing something here that's at least intriguing and hopefully really valuable for them.
Yep.
There's already, there would, at this point, there's a really strong foundation and argument to now go build a team around the opportunity and go and build the real solution. Good. I think general points, just zooming out, Finn. I think, fun to have you on the cohort. I think you've sort of thrown yourself into this when you've had a new job. I know you had some family stuff going on, looking for a house, I think, at some point as well. So it's great to see you stick with it. And that, I talk about persistence a lot. It's going to do you well continuing with that habit. I think only thing to improve, I'd say, from this case study particularly, I thought it was very strong, actually, like really good narrative, very clear and calm. It felt a bit, though, like it was reading a story, and I try and treat it like, like Dragon's Den, right? You want to get people excited about the opportunity. So yes, it needs to be clear and logical, but also you just go, look, here's this massive gap in the market that we can pursue. Or we got such good feedback. Even people are even sharing this on Snapchat without us incentivizing them. Because you want to get buy-in, because buy-in means you're going to be able to build this out. And if you believe it's a good opportunity, it's going to be great for the business, and it's going to be great for you, because you're going to very quickly be leading teams and organizations. Yep. So don't underestimate it's a shame to say, but how illogical people are with their decision making, right? They're going to get behind you if they get excited, not because you give them clean data always. So I think just try and remember that it's slightly acting. And I think it is more so when we are remote, because we it's harder in person to sort of build rapport with people.
Yep. Even
more important to be building up these, tone of voice, raised eyebrows, hand gestures, etc. Change the tone. And then look, moving forward, all 3 of you grads, actually, I think, or 4 of you, sorry, Calvin as well, doing really well. I think as I said, thrown yourself into it. You haven't, none of you are out of your depth at all over the 8 weeks. And I think the only thing to focus on moving forward, 2 things really. I think 3. First one is that getting people excited, right? That final thing of you've got everything else, just get people excited.
Yeah.
Second thing, just keep coming back to the videos, keep coming back to the frameworks. In your day-to-day, you're going to be more focused on execution most of the time. That's fine. That's where you're at in your career. But keep trying to feed in a lot of this more strategic stuff. Workshops, watching the videos, right? Just mapping out a blue ocean for a product you're working on. And then final thing, keep cracking away at wireframing and Figma. You don't need to be a design expert, but it's a really good skill for communicating concepts to people. If we do it visually, it saves a hell of a lot of confusion and miscommunication than having a written document.
Yeah.
So it might be, you work closely with the designer, or you start on Miro, you work with a designer in Miro, and then you hand it over to them, even at a very early stage, like prototyping or just wireframing. But get into that habit of sort of visualizing whatever you're working on as well. I think it's a really, really key skill. But yeah, apart from that, honestly, great work. And I think congrats on completing 8 weeks.
Spot on. Thank you very much. Cheers, Henry.
No worries. Any sort of final thoughts, comments? How was it?
It was good. Yeah. I think because obviously we started this as soon as we started the job, and we're sort of like, we're made to do it. I think at the start I didn't take it perhaps as serious as I should have, and I didn't really realize the value of it until like the latter half. And I was like, this is actually a really good opportunity to try and make the most of it and get as much out of it as I can. So I think I realized that after I realized, the absence of this course. If it wasn't there, I wouldn't be learning all of this stuff. So I think I definitely picked it up towards the end of it, which is why I didn't want to do it last week, because I know I could still make it better. But yeah, I genuinely.
Well, I mean, it's great to see that you did do that, because yeah, I mean, the results are really strong at the end. So I think it's great to see, and you got some good learnings, I can tell, around PMF and again, wireframing. That it's not about making something perfect, right? It's about what are you trying to learn from it. I think it's really, it's going to save you months in future working on things. Well, not working on things you don't need to, essentially. Good. Well, as I said, you're in a good place. So let's stay in touch over Slack. We've got community events coming up, and just keep cracking away, keep working away on these kind of frameworks.
I might see you next Thursday.
Well, yeah, do make it. It was good fun last time. I'm just slightly worried about our venue because it's just going to be busy.
Yeah.
Like, there's space. It's a big pub. It'll be fine, but it will be busy.
Well, we'll see what Boris says tonight, hey?
Yeah. Oh, is he announcing something?
Yeah, I think he's announcing. I think it's working from home again. It's the rumors.
Right. God, yeah.
We'll
right.
see.
I'm going out to Brazil in 2 weeks. I think I might fast forward that.
Yeah, get out there quick.
Freedom, yeah. Right, nice one, Finn. We'll hopefully see you next week, then.
Will do. Cheers, Henry.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.